Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. I think we'll get started in just a second. We should be just about good to go. Hopefully you're in the right place. This is Jira Dashboard and reporting best practices. And I'm Morgan. Great. So today, thanks for joining. I'm really excited to be able to be here with y'all virtually. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through, as you might have guessed, some Jira best practices for reporting and dashboards. I'm also going to do some demos, walk through some like good and bad examples so we can see kind of the whole gamut. And then hopefully we'll have time for some Q&A at the end. So with that, you guys can use the chat or the Q&A on the event to put any questions. Some of them will be answered live. Some of them we may, follow up with. Additionally, well, before I jump into that, so my name's Morgan Folsom. I'm a product manager for Custom Charts, which is a Jira and Confluence reporting add-on. I'm here with Old Street Solutions, and if you have any questions following this, we do have a booth, so feel free to check that out. At the booth, we've also got some free licenses for Custom Charts and some of our other apps. So stop by, chat with us, get some free licenses, hang out. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump right in. I've been in the ecosystem for a few years, working with Atlassian tools, formerly as a consultant at a solution partner, and now here with Custom Charts. So I've built a lot of dashboards in my day for myself, for clients, for my boss, all that fun stuff. I've also seen a lot of bad dashboards along the way. So goal here today is that by the time you guys leave, you've got just some tips, some ideas of how you can build your dashboards a little bit better. So with that in mind, I'm just going to jump right in. So we're talking best practices today. So we'll start at the top of the list right here. So what we have on the screen here, like some not super great dashboards, right? So I think we've all seen some bad dashboards, which could be for a lot of reasons. So sometimes they're just all text. It's just like a wall of text with a bunch of filters. Or your data is not very good, or you can't even tell what they're supposed to be telling you. The bigger and more complex your Jira instance is, the harder it's going to be to cleanly display reports. So it just gets harder and harder, right? Dashboards in Jira are super easy to create, which means really anybody can do it, which is awesome. But sometimes that like the power that you have can be a little overwhelming, especially if you're trying to figure out like which gadgets do I need to add? What can I even do? Do I have to go create filters somewhere else and then come back? And if you're not a JQL expert, all of these things can make reporting just like a little tougher. So first best practice. I think this one's kind of like the duh here. So the very first thing that a dashboard should be is informative. It may seem like it doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. So the very first thing you should be doing when you're building a dashboard, and let's just broaden this to like any report, right? In general, identify who the audience is, right? A dashboard or a report should clearly communicate a message to the viewer, and that message should be something that they care about. It doesn't matter how beautiful your dashboard is if the wrong people are looking at it, or if it's not organized correctly, it just decreases the utility of that like immediately. So the step one, the very first place that I start is figure out who the audience is. So am I just building this for myself? Is this a personal dashboard? Is it for my team? Is it for the execs, right? So all of those different people care about different things, right? When I'm just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do today, my dashboard or my reports are going to need to look a lot different than the report that I send to the CTO on how our support dashboard's doing, right? Two totally different audiences. There's some crossover, obviously, but if you want it to be useful, you want to narrow that down right out of the gate. Answering that question makes the second question a little bit easier. So once I figure out who's going to be looking at this, what do I want them to know? Think bigger than like, I want to see how many issues are in each status, and more like what does that say? What is the story that I'm telling with these charts, right? A lot of people will build reports by just like picking the easiest thing, like, status, assignee. These are all super valuable, but identifying that I want to see a status breakdown doesn't tell the same story as like, do I want to see if my project is on track? Do I want to see if the workload is evenly distributed among my team members? Or do I want to see, what do I have to do today? Right? So figuring those like the larger story that you want to tell is going to make your dashboards easier to create, but also just better overall, right? So we can kind of look at an example of, add an example here. So we'll use this one to start. So this is a screenshot. I'll actually get into Jira shortly. You won't have to just watch my slides for the next 45 minutes, but so looking at this screenshot of a dashboard, right? The dashboard's called program status. We have 4 gadgets. So looking at that, we've got, only my issues. I can see some issue type breakdowns. Cool, makes sense if I'm an individual contributor. We've also got next to that a RAG report. So I can see a project status broken down into red, amber, green. Cool, that's valuable information. We've got a status breakdown. We've got an average age chart. Again, these are all like solid reports. But who cares about all of these things at the exact same time, right? So if we're looking at only my issues, right? Like I care about that. I want to see what I have to work on today. Do I also at the same time care about all of the projects in my organization or my program? Maybe, but maybe not. Or if I'm coming here to figure out program status, is the issues that are assigned to me, is that relevant, right? So putting together a dashboard is more than just like picking nice gadgets, although that's a lot of the fun of it. It's not the whole thing. So we can see here example of where making a dashboard informative is the larger picture, right? Is the story that you're telling, the audience that you've identified, and the information that you're communicating. So it's kind of our more philosophical, the larger ideas, but even more than that. So kind of jumping into what I think is the fun part. Make your dashboards easy to understand. Finding a balance between powerful reporting and clear reporting is really hard. Just like objectively, trying to put together information or display information in a way that clearly communicates a message is, there's people who do this full time, right? We're just also working in Jira and trying to make sure we can tell our bosses what's going on. So with this, let's actually jump into Jira. So we're going to talk about how to some good and bad examples of easy to understand dashboards. So what you should be seeing now is a dashboard. So on the left side of this page, we've got our project status. So this is just like your out of the box pie chart gadget from Jira. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with this. Here's what we got. So we've got RAG, just like this is, I think, the screenshot that was in the slides. We've got RAG, we have red, amber, green. I'm sure it could take anybody just a few seconds to figure out why this isn't my favorite chart I've ever seen, which would be the colors, right? So if we look at this, green is blue and amber is red and red is amber, and that's just kind of a mess. So if I'm looking at this, as far as if we're trying to make our charts easy to understand, it's not quite there, right? When you're setting up an out of the box pie chart gadget, you have 2 things you can do. So you can set the source of it, the filter project, and your field. And that's kind of the end of that, right? You can set it to auto refresh if you want, but that's the beginning and the end of the configuration. So what we see here is a part of your dashboard that is technically correct, but not very useful. So I'm going to build the same thing in custom charts. So custom charts, again, it's just like it's a dashboard gadget, easy to use and looks nice. So that's the goal. I'm not going to walk through a little step by step, but it's there. But let's see how long it takes to make a chart that's better than the one that we got next to it, right? So I'm going to start up here in this right where we've got source. So just like on your pie chart, you can choose a project or a filter. You can do the same thing in custom charts, or you can use JQL or do some dynamic searching. But I'm just going to select a save filter here, and we're going to pull up the exact same filter that we're using on the left side. Then it'll prompt us over here to chart by, and we'll select RAG. So I'll do that. It'll take a second to pull that information in, and we can see the chart's first stab at it, right? So it also just guessed what colors the sections were, but the difference is that we can actually do something about that. So green turned out green. That's lucky us. Let's change amber to do a little more of a yellow, and change red to red. So immediately this chart is more useful, right? It's easier to understand because the colors mean something. We've also got a little bit of extra information. You can see percent is showing here. I could drag and drop these if I wanted it to be red, amber, green to respect the acronym there. Right, so that took about 45 seconds to build a chart like this. And when we're talking easy to understand, providing as much help as you can is also going to be key. This is something that can be hard to do on a Jira dashboard, is like editorialize, right? You've got your gadgets, but it's not always clear what that means. This one, for example, what does red, amber, and green, what does that even mean? And the answer is, I don't know, but we can provide a little help by using the description here. So I'll paste that from my secret clipboard over here. And now let's save this. Now I've got a chart that is the exact same source information, the same field, but if I'm just coming to this dashboard, infinitely easier to understand, right? Colors mean something. I can drill down. It's clear what is what. And if I wanted to know what these things actually mean, I can throw this directly on the dashboard, right? I don't have to just like hope that somebody knows where the Confluence page is, that defines what these metrics actually mean. I can add a link to the Confluence page here, or I can insert this. And so if we talk easy to understand, you can see a pretty clear distinction between these two. To keep on going sort of down that same path, we're going to focus on this left side again. And anybody here who has ever used cloud and has team managed or next gen projects has probably seen a chart that looks a lot like this, which makes me want to cry. I hate it so much, guys. So what happens when you have next gen projects or team managed projects in your instance is that it creates duplicates of statuses. So we see from a status perspective, I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 different to-dos. They are mostly different colors. They're not grouped together in the chart at all. And when I look at this, if I'm the audience for this chart, what I'm going to say is, I can't believe that you want me to do math right now, right? So I've got to go in and add the 5,200 to those 9. It's just not going to happen. More likely than not, I'm just going to leave the dashboard because I hate this, right? So let's do the same thing we did before. So we'll go to our custom charts gadgets. I'll use a filter again. And I've pulled in all the tickets there. I will do chart by status, same thing. And we'll see one way to make our lives a lot easier, which is that we don't have to do any manual grouping. So it already groups all of those statuses together. Looking at this, I could just save this chart now and be done and have something that's clear. That's clear, straightforward. So if we look at this, I can do the same, change the colors. I could even change this if I wanted in progress to be called WIP. I can rename that section. If I really wanted to for whatever reason, if I wanted to combine these, I could, and let's combine in progress and to do into one section, and we can do the super powerful reporting thing by calling it done and not done, right? So on top of automatically getting rid of duplicates, you can kind of force the duplicates together if you so wanted, or if you had statuses, if you had like a done, resolved, closed, withdrawn, canceled. What we see a lot is when your teams aren't standardized, or you have just like a really complex workflow in Jira, all of those on this chart would just be separate. You can group them together here. So it's all done and you call it square. So let's get rid of our grouping there. See, and then we just put it right back. So this is a good way to have cleaner reporting without having to clean up your data, right? In a perfect world, you don't have duplicate statuses, but we don't live in a perfect world. So this is what we got, right? So duplicate, similar fields, all those sorts of things. If you can try to combine them in your reporting, custom charts will do it for you, but there's ways you can always build like, pretty complex filters on the back end that maybe exclude these guys. Maybe you don't care. Or in this case, if I wanted to try to pull these together and I really just have to do in progress and done, I can use status category, which groups statuses by their category, as you might have guessed, but allows you to have that kind of multiple status grouping. It'll automate it a little bit for you, but doesn't always help, right? Okay, so duplicates, add as much editorializing to your dashboards as you can, links to documentation. You make colors mean something. So I kind of glanced over that before. Obviously RAG is like a really clear example. But even with like status colors, right? Statuses have a color in Jira. Aligning your reporting to that can also make it pretty obvious. And so I could do the same thing. I think you guys kind of get the gist. Here's another example, fixed versions, just like statuses. The data can be kind of messy because those fixed versions or releases in Jira are project specific. So say I have, in this case, 4 projects that are, that have a version 1.0, but they're all the same release. It's just a cross project release. Out of the box 2D filter statistics, can't really do much with that. Custom charts will do the same combining. It'll also let you reorder the statuses like this. And I did kind of gloss over it before, but we've shown some pie charts here. A lot of people land on pie charts because that's what Jira has out of the box. But all of your charts can be all sorts of different kinds. So you can do it on a bar chart. The line chart's not super useful here, but we could put it in a funnel. We could just show a straight up table. We can put it in tiles, all sorts of things. So you can get a little more variety on your dashboard as well.
Sweet. So thank you for this beginning of the intro of this Jira reporting on dashboards. We have a couple questions. Well, we have a bunch of questions that actually just came in. So if you can just answer them really quickly, that would be super helpful for a couple people. So one of the questions from April is, how is a RAG status calculated? If you can just generally just talk about that really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So this example is actually a custom field that I've built into this instance, right? So what we're looking at here is a custom field called RAG. So we see this as a pretty common use case in like traditional PMOs or like project management teams, where you do like more of a gut status check rather than like your workflow status. So sometimes, a project is in progress or in development for, 6 months. But if you are doing more kind of a waterfall and have like a weekly check-in, a lot of folks will have, in this case, a custom field. So what this is on each of these individual issues, I have a field called RAG and I select red, amber, green. Folks who have like advanced implementation sometimes will see this be calculated using like Jira automation or the workflow if you have like budget versus timeline status or health, budget health, timeline health, all sorts of things. You can do some pretty fun stuff with those kinds of calculations, but this right here is just a basic custom field.
Sweet, thank you. And the next question comes from Michelle. Does custom charts have the ability to create agile specific charts like velocity throughout and burn down, burn up charts?
Yeah, that's a great question. Custom charts can do some of that today. And I'll hold off on finishing answering that question until the end because there's a few places that I'll point y'all. But I'll definitely talk agile reporting.
Thank you. And can we, did you say you could embed links into the legend on the chart?
Yep. So what we can do is we can use the description on each of these charts. So this editor, it's basically the comment editor in Jira. So you see I've added like colors and stuff here. I can also do just straight up a link to, a Confluence page or another page, and that would, we do that. And then folks who are viewing the dashboard can just click on that and open that up. Nice and easy.
And we'll just take one more. This one comes from Joey. Are the permissions of these dashboards the same as the native Jira ones?
Yeah, that's a good question. They are. Yep. So custom charts, gadgets, you can add to a dashboard just like any other gadget. So if you are one of the owners on the dashboard, you can modify them, and then of course viewers. All of the users in your instance can view the dashboard if they have the permissions to do so.
Sweet. Well, I'll let you get back to your lovely presentation, Morgan. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jamal. And we'll answer more questions throughout. Anything that we don't get to, we have the booth as well. So cool. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not going to make you guys watch me do like a demo, all of these things again, but let's keep moving. So I think you guys get that your dashboard should be easy to understand. Right. Yeah. You guys get that. You get the gist of it. So the next thing that I really want to drill in is on top of dashboards being informative, easy to understand, you really, really want them to be easy to maintain. So the worst thing, I don't know if this has happened to you guys, if you've been handed off like a complex, like easy BI report or like Google sheet or Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of calculations, and you're like, cool, I can never change this. I have no idea what this is doing. It's way more complicated than I'm going to be able to like manage because I have a full-time job. So things like that are super powerful. I mean, reporting, the ceiling for how complicated your reporting can be is basically infinite, right? You can get pretty intense with it, but the more complicated you get, the harder it is to hand it off to somebody, to maintain it, to update it. And again, like we all have like jobs that aren't just building reporting for most of us. So trying to pull that to be something that's just like easy to use is going to be key. So when we're talking maintainability, there's two sort of tips, tricks that I've got. The first, we have this beautiful gadget here that is reporting on labels. Now, I could spend a full session talking about labels, just all day. I could spend all day talking about labels. Labels in Jira, if you're not familiar, are an open field, comes out of the box. Every Jira instance has the labels field, and you can add, in some cases, custom labels fields. It's just like an open text field that lets you tag issues. So labels are really, really popular on small teams or less technical teams, like business teams, because they're super easy to use, right? You can type whatever you want into a labels field, and then you can report on it, right? You can do JQL, you can create filters that say, hey, these are all of the, all of the things with the sales label on it or the Q2 deliverables, and that's cool. What I tend to see though, is as teams grow and get past that sort of like casual, like you're kind of figuring out Jira, figuring out what reports you need to build, how you want to use the tool, is that if you continue to rely on labels, your reporting is going to start to look a little bit like this. Which what we're seeing is some pretty interesting stuff. And then we start to see the typos and the formatting differences. Because this is just an open text field, if somebody uses a dash instead of an underline in our Q2 deliverables reporting, now I've got two labels. So your reporting immediately gets messy. You also see things like typos. We've got sales and salsa, unless we've got something really interesting on this ticket that I'm not aware of. Same thing, marketing is short, marketing is long. It's just like kind of messy. So my labels guidance, this is as far as we're talking about maintainability. If this was my dashboard that I had to show to my boss, what I would probably do is before sending it over, go through regularly and just do cleanup, right? I'd go manually to the tickets that have Q2 underscore deliverable, change it to Q2 dash deliverable, and then how much time am I spending just cleaning up? So what I tend to say is if you're pulling together reports, you're pulling together dashboards that that matter. If you care what people have to say about these things or are seeing, try to avoid labels. So they're good for informal, like I want to group some tickets together because I don't know, I'm looking to track a few issues in a few different ways. That's fine. But if I'm putting it in front of my boss, I'm probably not going to use labels. So generally, once it starts to get formal, create a custom field for it, or use, even if you want something like still more project specific, or if it's hard, it's like hard to work with your Jira admins or they're overloaded, you can use things like components, which are still project specific, still a little decentralized, but more formal than labels. So maintainability, make sure your data is as clean as it can be. I mean, I know how these things go. Jira, it's really easy for Jira to kind of snowball and get pretty messy. So trying to, do your best to not have to clean up is going to be key. We've also got, there's some things that we can look at, like if I pull up another custom chart here, instead of making you guys watch me build this chart, we'll just go use a template. So templates and custom charts are just saved charts that you can use. Let's see, I created this one earlier today, created versus resolved this year. I'm going to use that template. And it loads in a full chart, right? So this is pretty cool. It gets us a cumulative created versus resolved. All of the fields are already populated. You can see, and you can see a few things. So the very first is that I'm using JQL for this source, just, I don't know, for fun. Pulling in issues created this year. So you notice that this is not a hard-coded date. This is not, like a 2021-0101. But using dynamic JQL to have start of year as like the source. So I've done that. I also, just kind of a duplication of effort here, but just to really be sure that it's only pulling in this year's stuff. I've also set the range on the chart, right? So this is currently pulling in everything from this year. I could make this more specific and say, actually, I only want created resolved for the past 90 days. And you'll see the chart shifted. So using like dynamic date filtering, so using your JQL that is like your start of year, end of year, start of month, those can be really helpful when appropriate. I could also create this and just, let's pick a project. I think this is in this instance. Yeah, we'll pull in a Jira work management project. Instead of the JQL, nothing was created in the last 90 days, but let's go back to this year. And we can see how that looks. It's a little cramped there. We'll save it and we can see that. So making them easy to maintain. Don't hard code dates or people if you can. Use more dynamic things like your dynamic JQL when you're talking about people. Use groups and roles over specific assignees if you're trying to filter that way. And then things like templates can also be helpful. So yeah, make them easy to maintain. It'll save your life. as far as like spending time maintaining your reports. But also I'm sure many of us have been handed off things when, one of your colleagues unfortunately leaves the company or moves to a different team, and you have to pick up what they've been working on. And I've spent a lot of days pulling hair over trying to build, complex Easy BI or Power BI reports. And I'm not a data scientist. I'm not, those things are awesome and powerful, but I just, we can't always do the awesome and powerful things. Sometimes we just want a simple chart to throw on a dashboard. Okay, so let's talk. We're talking so far, make your dashboards informative, easy to maintain, easy to understand. That wasn't quite the right order, but you guys get the idea. And then our last one that I wanted to highlight was just make them easy to find, right? It really doesn't matter how good your dashboard is if no one ever sees it. So here's some tips for that, right? Clear and descriptive names. If you are, if you're creating a dashboard for yourself, sometimes I'll call a dashboard Morgan's support dashboard. So that's, it's for me. I don't care if anybody else has to see it. That's what it's called. If I'm creating something for my whole team, just make it descriptive enough that if somebody goes into the dashboard navigator and searches, like try to think of what they're going to be searching for. Use those SEO skills that I'm sure some of us have developed. Just figure out what people are going to be looking for. Try to name it around that. On a similar note, share your dashboards. I can't even tell you the amount of times that I have built a dashboard and sent it over to somebody, and then they're like, oh yeah, no, I can't see that because I forgot to share it. It happens, we're human. I tend to now, so that doesn't happen, I'll share a dashboard immediately when I create it, so I don't have to remember to go back because I probably won't. So share them when it's appropriate, but also sometimes it's not. If I'm creating that, just like that Morgan support dashboard so that I can track my work, do I need to share that with anybody? Probably not. And by not sharing the dashboard, I get rid of some of the noise, right? So if it's just personal, just for me, I'm not going to share it with my whole organization in Jira and make them sort through all of my personal dashboards when they're trying to find, useful reporting. So be conscious of when you're sharing. Don't always do it if it's not gonna make sense, but yeah, sharing before you even create the dashboard I have found is can be helpful to not forget. And then the last note here is just link to them wherever your team does their work. So if your team lives in Confluence, we do have a custom charts for Confluence app, so you can build your reports right there. Build your reports directly in Confluence, but also put them in the side, like in the side of your Confluence space, link to your important dashboards. You can see on the screen this like team dashboard here. This is on a Jira project. You can add shortcuts. You can do that in Jira and you can do that in Confluence. If that's where people are working, send it there, right? So, yeah, again, like I said, if nobody finds it, nobody's looking at your beautiful dashboard. It doesn't matter how well you did creating it. So link to it as much as possible. Just make it easy to find, easy to work with. With that, here's a custom chart with the general takeaways here. So make your dashboards informative. So be intentional about how you're creating them, who you're creating them for. Make them easy to understand. Be conscious of duplicates, colors, ordering, all of the factors that just make it a little easier to understand what something is when you're looking at it. Maintenance, try to avoid things that are going to require manual maintenance if you can. Simpler is better, especially if you're going to be handing it off or communicating it to other people. And then make them easy to find. So put the dashboards where the people are, put the reports where the people are, and you'll get so much more out of it. Okay, on that note, I want to make sure we have time for questions. I saw a lot of them come through. So let's answer some questions while we've got some time.
Sweet. Welcome again. Thank you for that awesome presentation. And and let's jump into it. So first question, can we automate the reports from this dashboard?
Yeah, so it's going to depend what we mean like that by that. So just like your Jira reports, custom charts is up-to-date information from Jira. So it does, every time you refresh the dashboard, the page is refreshed. You can also do some of the same auto refresh options that you have on your charts if you want them to refresh in the background. So as far as automating like what data is pulled in, yes. As far as automating like creating dashboards, no. But we do have the template option, and there is an import export for if you need to like reuse, or if you're creating a lot of the same kind of dashboards, you can use those to decrease some of that manual effort.
Thank you. Next question, can you add columns and number fields like totals in spreadsheets?
Yeah, so that's actually, that could have been an audience plan, I swear. So if we actually look at this is a feature that we added like 2 weeks ago. So if we look at this pie chart, for example, we've got, it's counting by issues. I actually didn't talk about our calculation options at all. Charts can pull in just issue counts. You can also pull in any number field. You can do the sum or the average. So any number field in your instance, you can see this is a test instance, so there's some nonsense in here. But I could, for example, look at story points instead. And maybe we do something different like this, story points, not empty. And I just changed the chart entirely. We've got a lot of story points here. And we can change our number format to be a little friendlier here. But so right out of the gate, you can change the calculations. If you want to have more at once, we can come here to our Legends tab, and you can actually add multiple calculations options. So if I could count issues, and then I could do how many projects are included, and I could add story points. You could also do things like original versus remaining estimates next to each other, plus time spent. You can do all of that to include it in a table view like this. On top of that, which the slightly related question that may have come out of that is like a table of issues, like an issue filter. I didn't show that today. It's something that'll be in the chart in the tool soon. It's not quite there yet.
So we have a couple minutes left. Next question, in your opinion, when you create personal dashboards instead of using a Scrum, what would you prefer to rather than Scrum or a Kanban board?
Yeah, I feel like this is a big philosophical question of dashboard versus board. And if I look at like my day-to-day, I use both heavily. So what I'll tend to do is look at my board for like details, right? If I want to know what's being worked on right now, like explicitly what the developers are doing, how long it's been in a status, how's my flow looking, I'll go to the board. And if I want like higher level insights, I'll tend to go to a dashboard. That's like generally, but also sometimes it just depends on my mood. Like maybe today I wanna see like how many issues are in development or are waiting for their PR review. And I want to see it from a dashboard. So kind of vibes is the answer. So what I tend to do is I have both available, and so that when I decide I want to look at one or the other, they're both there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question. What features do we have to support Advanced Roadmaps Premium?
Yeah. So we support the team field. Right out is, I think, the big one that folks are looking for. So you can pull Advanced Roadmaps teams on here. We can also do whatever estimation statistic that you're using in Advanced Roadmaps can be reported on here as well. So most of the information on Advanced Roadmaps is also just in Jira as well. So I think the answer is pretty much all of it, which is a great note to add. If there are things that we don't do yet, our custom charts development is really, really heavily driven by y'all out there. So if there's something it doesn't do that you want it to do, we'll do it. Let's add it in. If there's part of advanced roadmaps that you want to report on that's not there, I don't think there is. I think we've got most of it for now. But yeah, definitely reach out to us.
And this is a big question. Why custom charts over another add-on like rich filters?
Yeah. Oh, I love that one.
I knew you would. I was like,
Yeah.
I was just testing you real quick. Test the water.
Well, if we look at rich filters specifically, rich filters is a super powerful add-on. I used it a lot before I came here. One of the big reasons that that we see folks moving away from rich filters, partially it's not available on cloud. So do with that what you will. And even folks who are on server and data center who are thinking like long-term roadmap of migrating to cloud are starting to look at add-ons that are available. But even more than that, I think part of really the big strength of custom charts, the idea is that anybody can use it. Right, it's like, because it's simple enough. You can do the entire configuration of the chart directly from the dashboard. There's no separate area that you have to go to learn how to use the new tool, right? It's directly in the dashboard. So simplicity and ease of use is like very top of the list. So we look at rich filters. EasyBI is another one that's like also on the table, usually when we're talking reporting. Unbelievably powerful app. You can build basically anything you want to with EasyBI if you've got the time and expertise. So there's a lot of times we see folks will have both. Sometimes they'll have EasyBI and custom charts in the same Jira instance. I feel like that's a really strong solution because sometimes you do have people who need like the really, really intense reporting and who know how to build it. But like 90% of the people in your Jira instance don't know how to do like MDX or work with data cubes or what, including me. So having something available to your users so they can self-serve also frees up the time building all those EasyBI reports for the ones that like need to be that complex.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I definitely appreciate you for answering the Q&As. Anyone, if we didn't get to your question, please feel free to head over to the Oak Street Solutions booth and we'll be more than welcome to answer your questions from there.
Yep, for sure. A few extra notes too before we go. Slightly tie back to the Agile question. We have a public roadmap. Links will be available in our booth. Public roadmap with features coming to the tool. We can do some basic Agile reporting now. Some of it will be coming to the tool soon. If you have specific questions, come to the booth, ask our questions. You can also come to our support portal that'll have access. You'll have access to that at the booth as well. Thanks everyone for your time. I know I kind of shoved a lot in those 45 minutes. It's been a pleasure talking at you. If you have any questions, come to the booth, shoot us an email. You've got another session in about 15 minutes, so you've got some time on the screen or things coming up. I think there's a lot of good stuff here today. I'm excited to watch all the other presentations. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, definitely. Looking forward to seeing y'all in the booth. Swing by for some free licenses if custom charts has interested you. We'll be there. Okay, thanks everyone.